It's hard for those of us who love what's good about Iowa to grasp the scope of the harm that's being done here by one drug, methamphetamine. But federal statistics from 1996 show more people were treated for addiction in Iowa than any state but California. And the number of meth lab seizures in our state jumped from 63 in 1997 to 320 just 2 years later. Amy Cresswell copes with the reality of the methamphetamine problem every day of her life, and her story reveals how far-reaching its effects can be.
I used drugs for 7 years, and it took 7 years from the death of a 14-year-old little girl to make me realize what I was doing to myself, what I was doing to my family.
In 1999, just before starting a 5-year prison sentence, Amy Cresswell uttered these words to middle school students in southeast Iowa. Amy is doing time for her role in the drug-related death of her 14-year-old cousin, Jessica Smith. Jessica is believed to be the youngest Iowan to die of a methamphetamine overdose.
I didn't even comprehend really what was going on. I just knew that she was in trouble. I didn't think she was gonna die.
In 1998, Amy and her cousin Jessica shared a Diet Coke laced with meth. They had poured the drink through a coffee filter that had been used to distill the drug. The girls and a friend were in a car traveling to Burlington when Jessica became ill.
She started shaking and passing out, so I got in the back seat with her and I held her, and she had convulsions, and she complained that she was cold, but it was hot. She was sweating. She kissed me and she laid her head down, and from that point she didn't open her eyes after that.
Jessica was eventually taken to University Hospitals in Iowa City, where she died on September 13, 1998, 1 week before her 15th birthday. Amy pleaded guilty to distributing methamphetamine. 3 other adults were convicted in the case: Jessica's mother, Jessica's mother's boyfriend, and a family friend. All 3 are serving 12 to 20 years in prison.
From the day that Jessie died, a week after that, I started going through counseling to help deal with the emotional part of it. I still have problems some days. You know, I still blame myself, and it gets easier every day, but it'll always be there. I have to take my part in her death.
Amy tells her story in a simple and straightforward manner, omitting almost all excuses. She talks a lot about choices and consequences, one of the biggest consequences being the effect the tragedy has had on her family.
When you use drugs, you don't think about anybody but yourself and where your next high is going to come from and where you're going to get the money for it. And you know, you're not going to share it with anybody. You're going to be stingy and hide it. And using drugs and being an addict, yeah, you become very selfish about a lot of things.
Today, at the age of 22, Amy is serving the first year of her sentence at the correctional institution in Pekin, Illinois, where she is in medium security. Before sentencing Amy to 5 years in prison, the judge took into account how she had spent the previous 18 months. First, she spent 3 months of that time in a drug treatment center. Then she traveled southeast Iowa for nearly a year, telling students about the consequences of using drugs.
At the age of 12, I was drinking. 13, I was doing meth, smoking pot. 17, I was using acid. And by the time I was 19 years old, I was experimenting with heroin. I've been there, and it is no kind of life to live.
The school presentations were the idea of Bob Barnes from Letts, Iowa.
Grandpa, today we are watching the news on TV.
While Bob was not directly affected by drugs, he was concerned for his own grandchildren and the choices they would someday face. As a retired teacher, he knew what impacted students most. His goal was to find a young person who could give kids a first-hand account of how drugs destroy lives. After a long search, he met Amy.
She was able to bond with the kids. I mean, I taught school 30 years. And I couldn't believe, but she would take a group of kids, and we're talking 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and during her presentation, nobody said a word.
I had a lot of goals and a lot of dreams for my future. But I let the drugs take all that away from me.
Strangers with nothing in common, Bob and Amy shared a goal: to influence at least one young person to not use drugs. After months of traveling the highways and county roads visiting schools, they became friends. They are pleased to know that many students took Amy's message to heart. She has created scrapbooks filled with letters and pictures the kids made. While the positive feedback has been rewarding for Amy, she says it was never easy looking out on a classroom of faces similar in age to Jessica.
A lot of them had a lot of questions like, how could you let her do drugs? It was hard, you know, knowing that they're her age, and, you know, she could be sitting there right now if somebody would have spoke up sooner.
Amy's story starts long before Jessica's death, at a time when she was even younger than her cousin. She says many of her relatives have had drug and alcohol problems and remembers feeling very alone growing up.
Nobody cared. That's what I felt like. And if they did care, they didn't stop me.
Yeah. What colors are those? What color is that?
Red.
Now Amy looks to her mother Candy for support, most importantly for the care of her daughter Sierra, of whom Candy has legal guardianship.
Brown.
Very good.
While Amy and her mom are close today, there was a time when their relationship was strained. Candy looks at the past with regret.
You know, there's things that, you know, she should have been able to come and talk to me about, but she was afraid to. And I feel has to be my fault, because I didn't give her that security to show her that I would be there no matter what.
Amy says choosing to use drugs nearly destroyed her life. While her sentence is less than the others involved in the case, she is acutely aware of what she's missing.
I miss my daughter. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy at all because of the mental and emotional anguish that you go through. Just the separation from your family, you know, and not being able to make choices. And, you know, that's just something that a person needs in their life. And, you know, this isn't the type of life that any person should ever have to live. It's a sad life.
While Amy has only begun her prison sentence, she plans to use her time wisely. She's taking classes in the hopes of becoming a drug counselor so that someday she can help others with the hard lessons she's learned. Amy feels fortunate to have a second chance at life, a chance to make the right choices.
Out of Jessica's death, I have 2 years clean today. You know, I'm gonna do something with myself, whereas if she wouldn't have died, I'd probably still be using drugs.
While Amy is trying to lead a better life, she regrets that no matter what she does, there is one person who won't get a second chance: Jessica Smith. At age 14, she died, buried by meth.